Hello, this is Elsa, and welcome to Personal Journeys. And today I am really delighted to have with me Nitsana Darshan-Leitner. Welcome, Nitsana.
Hi, Elsa. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I am so delighted that you said yes. Let me just tell people a few things about you, and then we'll go right on to the interview.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Nitsana Darshan-Leitner, you are known as the woman who makes terrorists squirm. Why? You're a lawyer. You use the law with this goal: bankrupt terrorism, one lawsuit at a time. And I love it that you've thought of this effective strategy. So far, the lawsuits brought into court by Shurat HaDin, the Israel Law Center, have been awarded over $1 billion. But I don't even know why I'm moved, but I am moved because it's effective, and I love it when people can be effective. Anyway, the lawsuits have been awarded over $1 billion, and you have collected over $120 million, all given to the victims. You yourself have been rated one of the 50 most influential Israelis. On top of that, you're a wife and mother, including of triplets, I think.
Mm-hmm.
A total of 6 children. So,
yeah.
What I want to start with is, how did you start out? What kind of little girl were you? What was your family? What did you think about right and wrong? Did you have any heroes that you wanted to be like?
Well, my parents came to Israel when they were little children from Iran, from the Zionist movement. And it was in the 50s when Israel just got created. And they moved to a little town near Tel Aviv, raised their family, me among others. And we were a very modest house. But one thing that we were raised on and were persuaded to pursue is justice. And when I finished high school and I finished my national service, I decided to go and try to help people. In the beginning, I thought maybe to do medicine, but after realizing how long of hours the doctors have to work, and I felt that it would be too difficult for me to be a doctor and raising family, I decided to go and do law.
I want to go back to childhood and stay with it a little, because you've gone through it so quickly. Did you have any heroes as a child? Did you want to be anyone? Your family was very big on ethics. Was it a more secular ethics, or was it a religion-based ethics?
I come from a religious family. But I didn't have a specific hero I wanted to follow. I just thought that living in Israel and experiencing what's going on and seeing in the time of the terror attacks, the blood is still on the streets, there is something that we need to do, either help the victims physically or help them mentally or help them by getting justice. And I wind up doing the third one.
So, because you wanted the easier course of action, more time for being a wife and mother, instead of becoming a doctor, which might have helped the victims physically, you went and you became a lawyer. Did you already become a lawyer with the idea of being an activist?
Yeah, from the beginning. Even as a law student, we already took cases upon ourselves pro bono on behalf of victims, not necessarily terror victims, but all different kind of victims, women that got raped, or women that were stalked by mail and the police ignored their complaints, extradition cases of Jews that were forced to be extradited to outside of the country. Different things that we felt that we should protect the victims who don't have a voice. So the terror victims only were part of the group, but when the Intifada broke out, we actually took over this area of law, and this became the center of our work.
I notice you're saying we. I've heard of you, so you are almost like the voice for that group, perhaps. But right
it's
from the
always
beginning,
the work. Yeah, it's always a teamwork. It's always a teamwork. We were students in the beginning, then we became lawyers. You know, I was learning in Bar-Ilan University. My friends were doing their degree in Hebrew University, and we just worked together. We established Shurat HaDin. It's true that I was the one who, who's leading the organization. And it's a funny story because in our first case, we were only law students and we needed to file a petition in the High Court of Justice. We didn't have money for a lawyer. So the solution was to become petitioners ourselves and argue before the court with no need for a lawyer. And there was like a discussion, who will argue before the court? And they all told me I should do it because I'm a woman and the court will not yell at me. And if I decide to reject, say, the petition, they will not hit me with a fine. And that's what happened in the first case. I went to argue before the court. When the court was very polite, and in the end, when they dismissed the case, they did not give me a court fine. And so it happened that I became the one who goes to court. I was the one who heads the organization, the public face of the organization.
About how many are you, and have you been a stable group, or do the others mainly come and go?
I'm sorry?
Are you a stable group, or do the others have some come, some gone?
No, that's still, we all on. We are still on, yeah, working on this area of law. You know, once you hit it, you cannot quit. You cannot do other things. You just have to keep going. Also, because you see, it's so satisfying, and it's so much to give from yourself to the victims and get justice for the victims and stopping the flow of the money, which is crucial in these days. So this work is extremely interesting, extremely productive, and with the support that we get from all over the world, it looks like it's very essential as well.
Could you tell people a little about the path? So at the beginning, the terrorist activism was a small part. How did it come to the forefront? How long before you got a successful judgment on your side?
Well, we started in the beginning of the Intifada in the year of 2000, and the first case was the case on behalf of the families of the two soldiers that were lynched in the police station in Ramallah in the Palestinian Authority. And then we filed other cases, both in Israel and the United States, against Iran, Syria, and other terror organizations that sponsor terrorism. And after 2 years, we got tremendous decisions in our favor. Got a judgment against Iran for $180 million. Got a lien on the Palestinian Authority money for 64 million shekels in the Lynch case. We got an unprecedented decision saying that the Palestinian Authority is not a state, they don't have sovereign immunity, and you can actually sue them both in Israel and the United States. And then we got flooded with phone calls of terror victims who wanted us to represent them in court, who wanted to bring lawsuits against those who devastated their life. So we established Shurat HaDin, Israel Law Center, and filed more and more cases. Today we're holding judgments for more than $1.5 billion, and we actually collected, to mention, more than $120 million. So I think we've been very successful in the past years. Many of our cases are going to trial now. We're going to have a major trial in New York against the Palestinian Authority, the first of its kind. It's a jury trial. We got already judgment that we are putting liens against Iran, against Syria, against North Korea, and we deterred the banks from wiring money to the hands of the terror organizations, because banks understand now, due to our cases, that there is a very high price they may pay if they wire money or provide financial services to terror organizations. They themselves can be sued for hundreds of millions of dollars. So the effect that we had over terror financing is significant, and it came up in the course of the recent years.
It sounds like you may have been awarded $1.5 billion and have collected $120 million, but the impact could be in the hundreds of billions if banks are not transferring money the way they were doing previously. In other words, the impact can be way beyond what you have gotten, which is already huge.
Yeah. Yes, because this is the start, the beginning of this sort of cases. Many lawyers joined this fight and filed cases on their own, pursuing the terror funding. And if we're talking about billions of dollars going to the hands of the terror organizations, and we know that the terror organizations cannot smuggle this money with suitcases, but they need the banking system to wire this money. Once the banks refuse to help the terror victims, you actually hurt the terror organizations. And I always meet with intelligence officers who tell me the same thing, that if you cut the money, you can cut the terrorism. If you stop the flow of the money, you stop the flow of the terrorism. The terror organizations cannot operate without money. It's the oxygen that they need. Same way they need ammunition, explosives, missiles, shelter. They need money. You take the money away, you bring their act to a halt.
I think it's a brilliant strategy, and it's using something that so often is used against those who try to speak out about dangers of Islam or anything and get lawsuits against them. Well, you have taken that weapon and you are using it against the terrorists and going directly for the money. Was this something that was obvious to you from the beginning, or it's just you lucked upon that path?
Just repeat the last sentence, please.
Now, was this obvious to you from the beginning? If we cut the money flow, we're doing we're really stopping a huge part of the terrorism, or is this something that is becoming more and more apparent to you?
You know, we see the efforts that the governments are doing in order to block the funding. They go and confiscate bank accounts and sometimes even invade banks in Jordanian banks that operate in Judea and Samaria, or Egyptian banks that operate in Gaza and take money away from them. You see the U.S. government trying to sanction banks that are involved with terror financing. But in the end of the day, the efforts do not bring so much success. They were able to freeze 40 million shekels, $140 million, but that's about it. So our efforts were able to seize hundreds of millions of dollars, and this is only the beginning. You see that it's becoming more and more effective. So even if we started these cases, with a big doubt, with a big question mark, if it will really be successful in the end, and we did it because we needed to do it, we needed to take an action, we could not stand still, eventually it proved to be working.
I think you have recently launched something huge. I just got something in my inbox that you're going over another more than $1 billion. I'm sorry, I can't remember all the details. I just glanced at it.
Yeah, it's the case against the Palestinian Authority.
Exactly.
Yes,
That
yes. Well, it's the case. Yeah, it's very exciting. It's going to be the first time the Palestinian Authority is standing for trial before a jury in Manhattan, before the public, before the media from all over the world. And for the first time, 12 citizens and a judge will hear what the Palestinian Authority did during the Intifada and why they are responsible for the murders, the suicide bombings, the missiles attacks, the drive-by shootings that occurred during the Intifada. And I believe very much that in the end of this trial, the jury will rule that the Palestinian Authority has to pay $1 billion to the victims that filed their case against them.
That would be a double victory. One, the financial award for to the victims, but also it sounds like if this is before the public, that it could help turn the negative image of Israel and the wonderful image of the Palestinian Authority in the media, that it'll be harder and harder to keep up the image of the Palestinian Authority as we poor victims.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that this is right. What you say is correct. Mm-hmm. We'll see, we'll show the pictures, we'll show the documents, we'll reveal new documents that were confidential until now, that prove that the Palestinian Authority gives money and supports the terrorism until this very day.
It sounds like your goal is getting larger and larger. If at first it was financial compensation, now it is going to the media, which portrays Israel, the mainstream media, which portrays Israel negatively over and over. I'm sure you know that when somebody went on CNN and showed a picture of the dead rabbis, something with violence, he was told, put down that picture. But it sounds like you will be hopefully able to reach the public with some of the images that people don't want to see.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. And this is all going to be shown in the trial. We'll have the victims testifying before the jury. They all will come and tell their stories. They will show the pictures of their children that they lost. They will describe their injuries, their trauma. It's not going to be nice for the Palestinian Authority. And the experts that will come and testify, the terror experts that we are working with, they will come and show what the Palestinian Authority did and why they are responsible for these damages of the terror victims.
It sounds amazing. It sounds wonderful. Congratulations. Do you have any even larger plans in the offing that you could say and that people could hear about?
Well, thank you very much, Elsa, for the opportunity. I call everyone who cares about peace in the world, about living peacefully in the world, to join the fight, to join the struggle against terror, and the place and the role that the private sector can take is the war against terror financing. Lawyers, victims, other professionals can take a major role in the war against terror financing. This is something that governments cannot do. This is something that only we can do. And I urge everyone to be aware and, go on our website, israellawcenter.org, join our Facebook page, spread the word, and be our partners, be our supporters and partners. We need everyone.
How optimistic are you? And do you have any idea of the time frame that you could envisage before there's actually a halt to the terrorism?
No, I'm not optimistic. Terrorism will not come to a halt so soon. But I know that we hurt them. So, days will come and we'll know how effective this fight is. But only if we get some percentage off of the terror assets and give them to the one who deserve it most, the terror victims, we did our work.
Yes. What you're doing is amazing. And what you're doing is others had not thought of that route. I really love it when different people take different routes. And in your case, a very, very effective route, you and your group. Thank you very much for talking with me.
Thank you so much, Elsa. Have a great day.
You too.